Today, we are reacting to some transphobia. Here we go again. Hey Spuds, how's it going? I hope you're well. Welcome back to another video. It's Jamie. Today we're going to be watching some transphobia. Transphobia that has been neatly packaged into a relatively semi-professional looking advert by the ever wonderful PragerU. Some of you might have heard of PragerU before, some of you might not. This is not my first time hearing of PragerU, and it's definitely not my first time seeing PragerU being transphobic. And today I'm going to be reacting to their video called Preferred Pronouns, or Prison, the drama. So just so much drama in a title. But before we get into today's video properly, I just need to say a quick and massive thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video. I had seen so many people talking about this game, so I was really excited when Raid reached out. Raid Shadow Legends is an RPG role-playing game that is free, absolutely free to play, and is available to play on both your mobile device and your PC. The world of dark fantasy is your oyster. My belt is creaking on the chair. For this next bit, I need my glasses. Please allow me to show you my tavern. This is where you can upgrade your champions. You click on a champion that you want to upgrade, so I'm going to do this one right here, and then you press on one that's like a low rank that you're going to sacrifice in exchange. You sacrifice, then you do upgrade. That felt so mean. Now this is my favourite bit. This is called the battle campaign, where you can increase the XP of your new champions, making them stronger and winning artifacts and silver. Oh yeah. So you select your team that you want. We're going to go for the highest ranked team, and we're going to start. And you fight big scary bosses. Let's hope I don't lose. And you win. Yes. And look, yay prizes. You can challenge yourself in ongoing tournaments and compete against the whole Raid community whilst fighting in the Spider's Den, Ice Golem's Peak, the almighty Fire Knight, or the notorious Dragon. Ooh. In May, Raid Patch 1.15 also lets you compete in the brand new arena tournament where you can earn points and win rewards in local and global play. Go to the video description, click on the very special links I have there, and if you're a new player you get 100,000 silver. That's a lot of silver. I'd like 100,000 silver. And one free champion. This is a really cool champion that they are giving you straight away as soon as you start playing the game, and who does not want a highly muscular barbarian with a huge sword? But be quick, because these rewards are only available for the next 30 days. And when you go on the game, all this treasure will be waiting for you. So that is Raid Shadow Legends, guys. Go check it out if you're interested. And now, it's time to go back and react to the PragerU transphobia. Oh yeah. Are we ready for this? Let's go. I'm looking at the symbol, the little logo, and I'm just like, yes. When you see that, you know you're in for a treat.
If you want to control people's thoughts, begin by controlling their words. That's totalitarian thinking. Is
this gonna go where I think it's gonna go? You know, like, ooh, the transgenders are taking over, they're controlling our thoughts. Wow, already like 7 seconds in. Also, I feel the need to say that transgenders is not a real word. I used it for comedic effect, but I can't just let it be there without clarifying it's not a real word.
It was once completely foreign to America. Not anymore.
I'm looking forward to this.
Increasingly, Americans are forced to use language against their will or even their conscience, or be prepared to suffer the consequences.
What that sounds like to me is, oh, I discriminated against somebody, / I was rude to somebody and I had to face the consequences and I got told off, boo me.
Take, for example, the issue of transgenderism, the newest civil rights battle of our time.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much. And also, putting transgenderism in that kind of format to make it look all professional does not make it the right word to use there. It just doesn't look right. Transgender is an adjective, so putting ism on the end of it is kind of like putting ism on the end of a word like pretty. For example, saying this advert is pretty-ism rubbish. It doesn't work. Pretty rubbish, not pretty-ism rubbish.
A decade ago, few people could even tell you what the word transgender meant. Today, expressing the wrong opinion on the issue can cost you your business or job or both.
It's discrimination though. That is discriminating against other people. You can't just do that and be like, oh, I should not get in trouble for this. This is just what I'm allowed to say because it's my beliefs. I can be a bumhole towards you. Discriminating against others has always meant that you're likely going to face some consequences for that kind of behaviour. It's like if you go in and you're repeatedly racist to somebody in your office, you're going to get in trouble, or you're very likely to get in trouble. Like, it's expected that you would. And like, imagine if you could get on the same level of trouble as losing your job for something that you can't control. Like, I don't know, being transgender? Oh, wait.
In 2017, California Governor Jerry Brown signed legislation threatening jail time for healthcare professionals who willfully and repeatedly refuse to use a patient's preferred pronouns.
It's not really true though, is it? According to this bill, if you deliberately and willfully, repeatedly misgender somebody, you can't face criminal actions. You might get in trouble in other ways, but it's not going to lead to criminal prosecution. What would lead to potentially criminal prosecution is if there was risk to somebody's life or safety. Like if the discrimination reached a level where it caused risk to somebody's life, then, you know, that could lead to criminal prosecution, just like it already did before the bill though. Of course, those civil proceedings can still take place in things like the workplace, but this is true for any form of discrimination.
Under guidelines issued in 2015 by New York City's Commission on Human Rights, employers, landlords, and business owners who intentionally use the wrong pronoun with transgender workers and tenants face potential fines of as much as $250,000.
I read about this one too. It's technically true, but it would have to be in very exceptional circumstances for somebody to face those kinds of fines. And also fines and not jail time, which this video said preferred pronouns or prison. And I've not actually heard anything that would mean preferred pronouns or not using preferred pronouns would land somebody in prison. And these fines would be issued under circumstances where a transgender employee was repeatedly and deliberately discriminated against. Really, what this boils down to is people like this will never see misgendering or using the wrong pronouns as discrimination. Trans people are not seen as their gender to the eyes of people like this, to transphobes, and so therefore misgendering is not an issue. But it is discrimination, and if transgender employees are facing that kind of discrimination, of course, the employer or the person perpetrating that should face consequences.
That's a steep price for saying he instead of she, or she instead of he, or even he or she instead of they.
I'll tell you what is a steep price to pay, and that's your job, or your family, or your friends, or even your life just for being transgender.
What about the vast majority of citizens who hold the biology-based view that chromosomes determine your sex, male or female?
I mean, they can keep their outdated view. They are like welcome to that and just completely disregard new scientific evidence and the fact that intersex people exist and all of this stuff. But what they can't do is use their view as an excuse to discriminate against somebody else.
Or those who have a deep-seated religious conviction that sex is both biological and binary.
Sex is not binary though, and again, we now have scientific evidence to show that. But again, if that's somebody's belief, then they are entitled to having that belief. But again, it cannot be used as an excuse to discriminate against somebody else.
In December of 2018, Peter Fleming was fired from his job as a French language teacher in a Virginia school district because he refused to refer to a transgender student by the student's preferred pronouns. Fleming's Christian belief prevented him from bowing before the notion that the student who had been a she in his class the year before was now suddenly a he.
So an adult teacher deliberately and repeatedly discriminated against a child and was surprised they faced consequences for it.
Fleming was willing to use the student's chosen new name, but he avoided using any pronouns when referring to this student. That wasn't good enough for the school district. They needed to hear him say the words.
This clip makes it sound like the French teacher Fleming simply disagreed with the transgender student's identity and said that that was due to his belief. His lawyers and most bull poop articles say, oh, heroic Fleming, despite his views, he still used a male name for the transgender student, but just refused to use pronouns. But the reality is that when he was teaching a French class, he did use a female pronoun to refer to the transgender student. And after that class had finished and all the other students had left, the transgender pupil asked Fleming to respect his identity, and Fleming replied back with, it's difficult. Fleming then reportedly continued to use female pronouns when referring to the student to other teachers, so behind the student's back, but not to the student's face. And when asked to use male pronouns, he refused. So sure, Fleming used a male name, but he still used female pronouns and refused to use male pronouns. So, say it with me, that is discrimination.
The Supreme Court has clearly decided that compelled speech is not free speech. In West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett, the Supreme Court upheld the student's right to refuse to salute an American flag. Justice Robert Jackson wrote, if there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, religion, or other matters of opinion. And, Jackson went on to say, the state can't force people to say things they don't believe.
You're arguing for free speech whilst not understanding the importance of discrimination and hate speech and the difference between that, and the fact that, say, that teacher who was fired and the people who don't want to use preferred pronouns, they're not literally tied down and forced to say the words. They're just told that it's a form of discrimination to not use the correct pronouns, and they will face consequences if they repeatedly misgender somebody, deliberately. Freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence.
People are forced to refer to others as they or co or thon. Yes, those are now considered pronouns. What might otherwise be a courtesy now has criminal consequences.
But it doesn't though, does it? I already explained this. This is just like, ooh, big scary transgenders are gonna send you to prison for calling them the wrong pronoun.
In most contexts, I would have no problem addressing others in any manner they chose, and I'm sure most Americans feel the same.
So by most contexts, does that just mean I don't agree with trans people, so I'm not gonna do it? I don't understand.
But the Constitution's protection of free speech neither begins nor ends with good manners. It extends all the way from rudeness to meekness, protecting those who hurl insults and those who would prefer to say nothing at all.
No, what it does is it protects vulnerable groups within society from discrimination. Just like you're not allowed to hurl verbal abuse or racial slurs at people, now trans people are protected and you cannot discriminate against them either. It's just transphobes getting their knickers in a twist because they don't like that trans people are now protected from discrimination. I just don't get it.
The Fairfax County School District in Virginia removed the phrase biological gender from its curriculum and replaced it with the phrase sex assigned at birth.
And that makes zero difference to your life. Thank you for pointing it out.
This is how the left legislates away the concept of biological sex without ever having to make the argument, without ever having to convince anyone.
That was like conspiracy level bull.
They're trying to make sex assigned at birth as trivial and malleable as name assigned at birth, as if some doctor arbitrarily chose for you on the day you were born.
It's just recognizing that for some people, it can change. And to some people, their assigned sex is different to their gender. Of course, when I say for some people it can change, I'm not saying that chromosomes change. But when talking about sex, it's not all about chromosomes. That's not the only thing we base sex on. It's also primary and secondary sex characteristics. And legal sex has a part to play as well.
To the extent that the transgender movement seeks to promote compassion for those who struggle with their biological sex, we should be grateful for it. To the extent that it seeks to use government power to regulate our perspectives, commanding that we ignore biology and common sense, we should resist it.
We should resist it. We should what? What? We should resist what? What? We should resist being respectful. We should resist not being discriminatory. We should resist not deliberately making somebody feel distressed. Like, we should resist being decent, respectful human beings to one another.
The Constitution guarantees freedom of speech so that political issues can be worked out in the public square. But the activist left doesn't want that conversation to occur. They want to force the adoption of their conclusions before the argument even begins.
The argument has been going. It began a long time ago. It's taken a very long time for transgender people to get any form of protection against discrimination, and even now it's kind of barely there. Like, it's just there, but like barely. I've really got away with words today, I'm sorry. They're acting as if their lives are gonna be drastically altered in some way, but you won't notice. Trans people will though, and that's what matters.
Compelled speech is the tactic they've chosen. It's unconstitutional, it's undemocratic, and it's wrong.
And it's wrong. Well, that feels like the punchline. Trans people want to be respected and have the correct pronouns used for them. It's wrong.
If gender activists prevail, we may be left with a world we neither recognize nor like very much.
Oh, the drama. This is not the apocalypse. It really sounds like the beginning of some right-wing conspiracy theory apocalypse movie thing that nobody would ever want to watch ever.
We won't be able to communicate our displeasure. We will have lost the words.
That just sounds irresponsible. Where'd you put them? We'll have lost the words makes it sound like a set of keys. Damn it, I've looked all over this house for my bigotry and I just can't seem to find it. Guess I need to go out and respect other people today. Well, that's the end of the video, by the way. That's why the earbud is now no longer in my ear, because it was annoying me, it kept falling out. Imagine kicking up that amount of fuss for not being allowed to discriminate against other people. Just as an example, if you found out the name of a new colleague and you just refused to use that name because you didn't like it. Like, say someone new walked in the office and it's like, "Hi, I'm Timothy." Sorry to all Timothys. And you're like, "I don't like the name Timothy. I'm gonna call you Matthew instead." You can't do that. You can't just like go around calling Timothy Matthew because you don't like the name Timothy. And if you did, you would get told off and told that you need to stop it. I'm using that as an example because honestly that's how ridiculous the arguments sound to me. It's just like throwing your toys out of the pram and being like, "I don't want to do this because it's not what I'm used to and I don't like it and they're trying to control our speech." It's like, if somebody asks you to use a name, you use it. because that's the right thing to do. So if somebody asks you to use a certain pronoun, you use them. Let me know what you thought of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, dinosaurs are cool, transphobia is not. Think about giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing if you want to, but no pressure. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Much love. Bye!